What's up, Mets fans, and welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob. And oh, baby, were the Mets stroking it last night. That's right. If you stayed up late into the evening on the West Coast trip with the boys in orange and blue, you heard the famous words of Keith Hernandez as he called what the Mets were doing yesterday, stroking it well. And boy, did the New York Mets do that in San Diego for game one, winning the third game on the West Coast trip. So at the moment, they are 3-2 on the West Coast trip so far with 5 more games to go. So it's a matter of, are the Mets really that good, or are the West Coast teams not as good as we originally thought? We are going to get into everything that went into game one yesterday. We're going to get into the Keith Hernandez stroking it comment with Gary Cohen basically trying to get away from the dirty minds of most of us that heard that last night. We're talking about medical reasons of a stroke. And game two previews, talk about the pitcher matchup, what the Mets got to do once again, and talk about the Padres a little bit as well, because as much as the people have been talking about the Padres and not too far behind the Dodgers, honestly, look at the Dodgers back end of that lineup, which is not very good. Look at the Padres lineup. Other than Machado is basically non-existent. And then you look at the Mets roster, and you wonder why people think that these Dodgers and the Padres, and at 2 weeks ago, the Angels were better teams than the New York Mets, specifically the Dodgers and the Padres that are specifically in the NL, where people are just saying that, giving more respect to those guys. Granted, the Dodgers do deserve respect, but just looking at the roster, looking at the back end of the lineup of the Dodgers, and then look at the back end of the lineup for the Mets, it seems to me that the lineup, if you really compare the two, I mean, there's a lot of guys in that lineup, other than Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Trey Turner, that are batting in the 250s or lower in that lineup. You don't see a lot of 250s or lower in the Mets lineup. You see around a lot of 270, 265 and over in the Mets lineup. And I think that's a big reason why the Mets, at least from a Mets fan perspective, are looking at other teams of like, why aren't the Mets getting the respect they deserve for what they have done so far? Not what they should project to do in the future, but right now. And I think the Mets as a whole, as a team, are saying, well, we are as good as these teams, if not better. And I do think the New York Mets are better than the San Diego Padres. The Padres, other than Machado, that lineup is, for the most part, garbage. I mean, other than Jurickson Profar yesterday and one swing of a bat of Luke Voit, they have nobody in that lineup. As you've seen, if the Mets shut down Machado, they're basically a team that's not going to win ball games, and the Mets did that yesterday for the most part. I mean, Luke Voit connected on a ball that a minor leaguer should hit when Drew Smith hung that ball to Luke Voit and made that a 2-run ball game until the Mets decided, hey, we're not going to give you any type of chance of winning this ball game, and scored a couple more runs to make it 11 runs. So when it comes to the New York Mets, when it comes to this West Coast trip, when you heard it all over Twitter, you heard it all over social media about, well, the Mets haven't faced a good team. The Mets haven't faced a good team. Wait until they hit that West Coast trip. Well, at the moment, we finished one West Coast trip with the Rockies, who, when you go to Colorado, anybody can beat anybody in Colorado. Then we faced the Giants, who people said that the Mets were no match for the San Francisco Giants. Even though they lost the series, they played well enough in that series where they can easily win 2 out of 3, if not swept that series. And then people are talking about, oh, you had the Nationals and the Phillies that are not a good teams. Fine. But yet, if you look at the power rankings, the Yankees are 1-2 almost most weeks in power rankings, and they still haven't faced a really good team in the American League. So at the end of the day, guys, the New York Mets are a good team. The New York Mets are a team to be dealt with in the National League. The New York Mets in the whole entire Major League Baseball is probably top 3, if not 4, best teams in baseball. And I don't even think it's close. And for everybody's getting the amount of respect that the Yankees are getting for a team that faced two teams on their schedule with records over 500. And oh, by the way, one team that they faced not too long ago when the Angels are under 500 now that just fired Joe Maddon, their manager. So in total, they faced one team over 500 throughout the entire year. Again, kudos to them and kudos for the Mets for beating the bad teams. That's how you win your division. But when people just throw out the respect that the Yankees don't deserve because they've been the World Series champions of the regular season and have choked with this core players that they have on the Yankees roster in the playoffs, they're getting way too much respect for a team that always does well in the regular season. It only comes down to playoffs for them. When it comes to the Mets, there is no past to look at with this team. This team is basically brand new for the most part. So you can't really talk about last year's team compared to this year's team. Now, if he still had Baez and he still had Stroman and other guys on his roster from last year that are doing this well this year, then you can look back last year and say, well, they choked last year, even though with the injuries, they still didn't do what they needed to do to get over the hump. Excuse me. Gotta sneeze. Live streaming. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. So when you look at this team, you have to look at the here and now. Now, in 2023, you can look back this season and say, well, look, the Mets choked in July. You can look at this season. Look, the Mets won 97 games. They didn't win the World Series, but they made it to the NLCS or won the NLCS and lost in the World Series. Thank you, Joe. So it's hard to evaluate a team from past performances and future projections when you can't really look either way with this team because, one, this team is not really healthy. And what happens if we had Scherzer, had McGill, and had DeGrom in this rotation the entire year all together? There's no reason why the Mets should have 43, 44 wins because a lot of the games that we won by one run or a lot of the games where you gave up 5 or 6 runs where most of those Scherzer and DeGrom would probably give up only 2 and the Mets scored 5 but lost 7-5. Those games could have been different as well. So there's so many different aspects to this team where you can't look into the past and you can't look into the future because we don't know how this team's going to roll out in the future. We are the oldest team in baseball as a whole. There's no guarantee that they can hold up throughout the entire season. You know, our pitching has been hurt, but for the most part, our position players have been basically 98% healthy the entire year. The last thing we want is to see position players to start to go down, and now our pitchers are healthy. You know, we got an old bunch of position players. You know, I'm not saying they're 37, 38 years old, but you got a lot of guys that are in their early to mid-30s where that can, you know, make one wrong move and be out 6 weeks in the offense in as a position player. But that's why it's hard to project in the future, and you can't go to the past from the Mets because they're totally different teams. So what about game 1? Mets were dominating the entire game until Luke Voit hit that 3-run homer to make it 7-5. Drew Smith gave up that home run to Luke Voit, a hanging curveball that just stood in the middle of the zone, and Luke Voit crushed it to left center field. All right, Met fans might have got a little worried about that, you know, because we know we didn't have a lot of arms in that bullpen going forward. You know, there was so many different guys you could have used. You know, oh my God, now we got to use Diaz today. You know, he'll probably do the job, but now you waste him for that game when you didn't really have to. You know, you could have used this guy. You could use that. Now you got to use Joely Rodriguez. It was just crazy. And then the Mets decided to blow open the game and score 11 runs and give a 6-run lead. And not only that, but for everybody, and that is including some people in the stream right now that are hanging out with me right now today for Mets Talk Live, that think that Eduardo Escobar was over the hump, that he wasn't going to get started. He is not going to bounce back to the Eduardo Escobar that we've known and what the back of the baseball card has said. I wasn't necessarily worried about Escobar, but it was alarming for the first 2 months that he was struggling so much because he was the bat that was supposed to protect Pete Alonso with the power, with the RBIs. He's an RBI machine. He's a guy that can hit 5 home runs in 8 games. He's that type of player. Nobody would be shocked if he knocks in 90 RBIs and hits 32 home runs and bats 260. That's the guy we thought we would get behind Pete Alonso. We get that type of Escobar behind Pete Alonso. Now you got a really hard 1-7 that is going to be very hard to get through. Not only does this team are not home run bashers, but they work the counts. They put together good at bats, and that's throughout the lineup. That's just the first 5 batters of a team. Because you look at the Dodgers after Mookie Betts, Freeman, and Turner. There's a lot of strikeout guys. There's a lot of guys that are batting like 240 in that lineup. There might be one guy, maybe, that are batting under 250 on this Mets team. Everybody else is over 250 and above. And we got a couple of guys that are reaching 300 and a few guys that are over 300 batting so far. So not only did Eduardo Escobar play well yesterday and hit for the cycle and got that triple down the right field line where he was hustling to third base. Congratulations to Eduardo Escobar being the 11th Mets player in Mets history to hit for the cycle, the last one since Scott Harrison in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. That's how long and that's how rare it is sometimes to hit for the cycle. And not only that, I honestly thought those couple of runs that Escobar, when he hit that triple, were very necessary because who knows if we only had, instead of a 6-run lead, we only had a 4-run lead. That gives the opportunity of, a grand slam. That could be a possibility tying the game. A lot of different things that could have happened during that game or during the rest of that game that could have changed the difference. Again, they could have not scored at all. But at the end of the day, the Mets made sure that it wasn't going to be closer than it actually was. Tonight, we got Taijuan Walker on the mound. He had a very good start in Game 1 against the Los Angeles Dodgers and now facing the Padres, which, if you really think about it, the Dodgers lineup is much better than the Padres lineup. As you see what Carrasco did, he took care of Machado, and that basically shut down the entire lineup of the Padres except for Jurickson and Profar. But if you get Jurickson and Profar on base and you stop Machado, nobody's beating you in that lineup. So that's what I think. Taijuan Walker, I believe, is going to have a good game today. Again, give us 5 or 6 innings. The length that we got from Carrasco yesterday was very helpful for this bullpen. You saved a lot of arms, such as Seth Lugo, a couple of, other guys, Shreve and other guys like that. You got a couple of guys that you can actually pitch tonight just in case if he only goes 5 or 6 innings, which I expect him to do. But I expect him to keep us in the game tonight. And I do expect the Mets to score runs against Yu Darvish, who, yes, still throws hard. But if you don't swing at his garbage pitching, because you saw with Blake Snell, he's a guy that if you don't swing at his crap that he throws in the dirt all the time, he throws the ball. When that ball goes over the plate, they look like beach balls. The same thing goes for Yu Darvish. Don't swing at that terrible slider that he throws that he hardly ever throws for a strike. If the Mets can hold up their swings and let them get into the zone and get in good hitting situations and hitters counts, the Mets should take advantage of Yu Darvish, no doubt about it. And what the Mets have done well all year was they worked the pitch count of those pitchers. And you see what happens when Blake Snell was starting to get frustrated because the Mets are fouling off pitch after pitch after pitch, putting the ball in play, not making the outs, a couple of defensive mishaps from the Padres. Blake Snell is a very fiery guy who gets angry very quickly. He reminds me of Steven Matz, even though he has a better resume than Steven Matz. He reminds me of Steven Matz when it comes to his attitude, and things can break down rather quickly. And that's what the Mets did. The Mets got into his head, not only with the base running of Marte and the guys who were playing on the base paths looking like they were going to steal, taking bigger leads, getting in Blake Snell's head. That's exactly what they did. And it got to Blake Snell, and the Mets got to Blake Snell, not only because of the way they had the at-bats, but also on the base path where they just pissed Blake Snell off. And that's exactly what the Mets got to do against Darvish. Darvish is not a big emotional guy. You just got to make sure you don't swing at his crap, because if you look, I looked at Yu Darvish's pitchers throughout the year. 77% of his pitches are outside the strike zone. Now, you can pick and choose a couple of pitches that he's thrown where they might have been called strikes because the one umpire gives a little bit more on the outside corner or a little bit more on the inside corner or north or south on the strike zone. But 77% of his pitches in 2022 have been outside the strike zone. But yet he has a good ERA and a good record. So what does that tell you? That means guys have been chasing bad pitches and they haven't been working the counts. So if he's in a pitcher count where he's either up 1-2 or 2-2 in those situations, or 0-2, giving the pitchers, giving him an opportunity to throw outside the zone, well, of course they're going to chase because they're trying to protect the plate with 2 strikes. So what the Mets do well is what can really hurt the Padres and Yu Darvish today. Don't swing at the garbage Yu Darvish is going to throw. Just most of the time he throws his fastball in the zone, and then he tries to confuse you with the curveball, the slider, the changeup, and stuff like that. But 77% of his pitches are outside the zone. If the Mets do what they continue to do and work the counts and not swing at bad pitches outside the zone, they're going to beat up on Yu Darvish, and that's a guarantee. All right, guys, so here we are on Mets Talk Live, about 15 minutes into the stream right now. We got 50 live viewers right now. So once again, guys, don't forget to hit on that like button, guys. Let's get this stream out to more people. I will be with you until 7 o'clock tonight. And unfortunately, not going live during the game because West Coast trip kind of messes up my work schedule. So there you go. So until 7 o'clock tonight, we get to talk all things Mets. Whatever questions you got, concerns, opinions, let us know in the chat. And we will talk about it and continue to talk about yesterday's performance and today's preview. And we will keep on going forward with the 30 first place New York Mets. And that's exactly what is so much fun with this team, because not only are they every day they find ways to beat you. Some days it's the long ball, some days it's pitching, some days it's small ball. They can beat you any which way, which I think is which projects to be good later in the season and also into the playoffs if and when the Mets make the playoffs. So I'm going to give a shout out to everybody in the stream. So don't forget to say what's up in the stream right now. We got 52 live viewers. And let's see how many people are saying what's up in the chat. So we got Robert, MB, Rocky, Joe, and the Lockout. Sean, a member of Talking Mets at Rob. Christian, a member of Talking Mets at Rob. Plaxi, Rocky, we got Ryan, we got Eric, we got Michael, Keith, Adventures. Who else we got here? We got Ruben, a member of Talking Mets at Rob. And so far, we got about 10 people in the chat, but 54 people watching or listening to the stream. So I do appreciate everybody tuning in today. Again, once again, here until 7 p.m. until when the stream is done. So get all your questions, concerns, and opinions in. And we're going to get started by talking about the pitching matchup. Even though we got a little bit into it, we're going to talk about it a little bit more first. But first off, I want to see what everybody's saying in the chat. So we got Robert that's saying, well, Joe Maddon gone from the Angels. MB says, bye, Joe. Rocky says, hey, hey. Joe says, what's up, Rob? And also says, and the Lockout, as always. Sean, good evening, Rob. Sean, good evening. Christian says, what comes first, 40 wins or 20 losses? I really have a chance. I really have a good feeling that the Mets are going to sweep the Padres. So I think 40 wins are going to come first, even though we got one loss to go before we get to 20 and 2 wins to go until we get to 40. So I think the Mets are going to get to 40 first. I don't think the Padres are that good. And again, if you stop Machado, you stop the Padres. Foxy says, hey, Rob. Christian says the Padres are near the bottom of the NL in most offensive categories. Exactly. They showed the stats numerous times that they were middle of the pack in almost every offensive category, other than Machado, who is in like the top 1 or 2 in the league in offensive categories. They do not score a lot of runs. Yesterday they scored 5 runs, but let's be honest. One hanging pitch caused them to score 3 runs. So it's not a team that scores a lot of runs. So I think if you put 5 or 6 runs in this team, they're not going to beat you. And the Mets are averaging a little over close to 6 runs per game throughout the entire season, which is a hell of a lot difference when they had under 3 runs per game around this time last year. So huge difference offensively with the Mets. And not only do them, like, if the Mets are struggling, they still find ways to work the pitch count of the pitcher, still have good at bats. Even in the Dodgers series, when they weren't scoring runs, they were still putting together good at bats, and they were still in almost every ball game. And that's the important aspect of this Mets team. They're almost even when they, when they were losing to the Giants in that Sunday when Zappucki just gave up every home run to every Giant hitter, it still felt like the Mets were going to come back, and they still put together a lot of good at bats. They had runners on base in that game, but they never got those runners in. They still always found a way to continue to put pressure on the team, where the team had to take out their starter in the 5th or 6th instead of keeping them in until the 7th and now use their bullpen. That's a big deal when it comes to teams who, let's be honest, how many teams can say they have really good bullpens? 2 in the entire league. So when you get to a team's bullpen, you have a pretty good chance of beating that team up. Rocky says, will Alonso break his home run record of 53? I don't think so. I would be surprised if he hits like 45 home runs. Again, he doesn't hit in the bandbox 81 games a year in Yankee Stadium. So, have you seen there's about 7 home runs that Aaron Judge hit that barely went over Yankee Field right field wall. So I can probably give 7 more home runs to Pete Alonso already, considering the fact that all the balls that he hit that were basically pop-ups to right field, if there was Yankee Stadium, they would be home runs. So I don't think he's going to hit 53 home runs just based on the ballpark he plays in, and he plays about another half of them in Citi Field, which, let's be honest, you got to jack one out to hit a home run out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he hits over 40 for sure, but 53 I think is a little too much. Christian said, let's go Mets 3 times. I love it. Christian, Alonso is munching on the Scooby snacks. We love those Scooby snacks. Brian, LFGM, the Yankees are a penis. Joe, when the Mets are healthy, they're the best team in baseball, Rob. I wouldn't see the best team in baseball because even though the Yankees haven't faced anybody, they have been the best team in baseball, just considering the fact that all aspects of their team has been doing well, again, against a lot of bad teams and teams that were expected to do well but are not doing well. Again, they faced 2 500 teams over 500 so far this year in the first 2 months and 8 days of the season. So it's hard to judge. It's very hard to judge the Yankees. And I think that's why you don't hear a lot of Yankee fans bragging as much as they usually do, because they know that they haven't faced a lot of good teams. Not saying you don't give credit, because you got to beat the teams on your schedule. That's how you win your division. But you don't get a lot of credit. You can't give all the credit in the world to the Yankees and not give all the credit in the world to the Mets, who faced at least more than 2 over 500 teams in the season so far on their schedule. You can go over. You got the Cardinals, you got the Dodgers, you got the Padres, right? Can you count the Braves again? I mean, you can, right? They're starting to get a little hot, right? I wouldn't put them necessarily, but you did. So I already said the Cardinals there. So yes, the Nationals suck. Yes, the Phillies, whatever you want to talk about the Phillies, they still are a team that has a long road ahead. There's a lot of teams that the Mets face. You face the Giants, who some consider a really good team as well. There's a lot of teams the Mets faced that are better than the teams and the Yankees faced. It's just that simple. The Yankees really haven't faced a lineup that can score runs or hit monster home runs and bash you to death like the Phillies, right? The Phillies have 4 or 5 guys that can kill you in that lineup. Yes, their defense sucks. Yes, their bullpen sucks, but they can win a lot of 10-8 games. So, and this is with the Mets not being 100% healthy. Let's be honest. Earlier in the Dodgers series, we didn't have Lindor. Not even a week ago, we didn't have Nimmo for 4 games. We haven't had DeGrom the whole year. We had Scherzer out for a month already. We haven't had McGill for almost a month already. So all of that, the Mets are still playing good teams and beating good teams without those aces in the hole that we usually supposed to have on that team. So it's a big difference. When this team is healthier, it's going to be a huge difference. And they're going to make a couple of trades at the deadline too. Exactly. So like I said, we all would sign up for 500 in June. No doubt about it. With the Brewers, the Marlins, the Astros, the Angels, all those teams we faced in June, everybody was like, oh boy, this is going to be a tough June for the Mets. Of course. But even the Mets fans would have took, especially with the record they have right now, a 500 June. Right now, we're 3-2 on the West Coast trip, which I think anybody would take at the moment. I think we're going to sweep the Padres. So if we sweep the Padres, we already got 5 wins on the West Coast trip. Even if we get swept by the Angels, we're still 5-5, which most Mets fans would take a 5-5 road trip, even if it didn't end the way we wanted it to, coming home to face the Brewers and the Marlins. Eric says, the best thing about last night was it really seemed like a team victory. Yeah, everyone contributed. I mean, even Tomas Nido was doing what he had to do in this lineup as well. So, like you said, Eric, everybody's contributing. That's exactly what the Mets need to do. They're not a team that can rely on 2 or 3 guys. This team is built to win in a team effort. You don't see Lindor, try to swing for the fences every time because he knows that if he just gets on base or he just moves the runner over. You saw the other day against the Dodgers when J.D. Davis hit the ball to the right side to move the runner over to third. He was clapping before the guy even made the throw to first base because he knew, yes, it would have been nicer if he would have bet a base hit to score the run and, padding his stats a little bit, but he was clapping because he knew he helped the team in that situation. Moving the runner over with less than 2 outs is a big deal. And that's what you see. A lot of these guys are not selfish. They will make sure that they get the job done at their at-bat. So the guy, his teammate that comes up after him can get the job done if they don't get it done. But at least they make a productive out where it doesn't hurt the team, but also gives an opportunity for the next guy after them to get the job done. And that's the biggest reason why I think Dominic Smith is not on his team as well. Not only did he say that stupid comment that, he likes this team, but he likes to play every day. Well, guess what? There's 26 guys on a roster on every team that would like to play every day. But guess what? It's not possible. Boo-hoo. You see Miguel Andujar, who is playing better than Gallo, is playing better than Hicks, gets sent down from the Yankees. It's called a business. It's called baseball. When you got options, when you don't play well, in Dom Smith's case, you get sent down. You're not a guy, and it's not like Dominic Smith was hitting 350. If he was hitting 350 and has a couple of home runs, I can see him getting pissed off. But when you're batting 180 with no home runs since last July, you don't have a leg to stand on. So of every player in Major League Baseball who is sitting on the bench and getting 1 start a week and maybe a pinch hit appearance here and there would like to start every day. But it's just not possible. Sometimes you actually have to earn your starting time. Go figure. In this day and age, in this world nowadays, everything is supposed to be, everybody, especially younger generations that think they're supposed to get everything handed to them and not work for it. That's what I think a lot of these players think. And that's a big problem to have because it's the work ethic. Now, again, I'm not saying Dominic Smith is not working hard to get back to normal. I think he's trying to. But I think he has that laissez-faire attitude where, look what I did in 2020. Why ain't I getting the opportunity to start every day? Well, look what you did in 2021. You were terrible in a 162-game season, not a 60-game season. If we're going to judge people on 60 games, well, Tomas Nido should be an all-star then, right? So you can't really look at it that way. He hasn't hit a home run since July of last year, which is nearly a year already, a little less than a year since he hasn't hit a home run. You're not playing well. Now, if he didn't have options to get down to the minors, he would still be on this team, and Nick Plummer would have got sent down, And the Mets would have had to find a way to get him started. But because he had options, and at that moment with Dominic Smith, we needed that extra arm because he used a lot of bullpen, and we didn't even know who was going to start every now and then. We needed that extra arm in the bullpen. That was the reason why Dominic Smith got sent down. Not because we needed the extra bat. We needed an extra arm, and he had options, and Nick Plummer just came off a 2-home run series, and you wonder why against the Nationals, against the Phillies, and then you wonder why Dominic Smith got sent down. There was 2 reasons. One, Nick Plummer was outperforming when he got his opportunity, and Dominic Smith didn't do anything with his opportunity. And the other reason was, at that moment, the Mets needed another arm, was the reason why Dominic Smith got sent down, because Nick Plummer is also a lefty, but he shows signs of power that Dominic Smith hasn't shown all year. Yeah, exactly, Ryan. The good teams beat good teams. Good teams beat bad teams. But what you like to see from the Mets, even though they lost the first 2 games in LA, they had a chance to win game 1. If they actually had a little bit of life in those bats, they could have easily won game 1. And let's be honest, as good as the Dodgers are on paper, they're a team that if you score runs on them and you put pressure on them, they have a hard time coming back in ball games. They're not a team. After you get past the first 3 guys, Mookie, Freeman, and Turner, the rest of that lineup is not great. You got Chris Taylor, who swings out a lot of pitches outside the zone. You got Justin Turner that is getting up there in age, who is a guy who, will hit the occasional double hit, but he's not a home run guy as he was before. You got a lot of guys, Will Smith, who hasn't had the same year like 2 or 3 years ago. A lot of those guys, after from the 5th spot down, is not a team that you have to be worried about after you get past those 3 guys. Yes, they can do some damage every now and then, but look what the Mets did. The Mets controlled Freeman, for the most part, controlled Mookie Betts in game 3 and 4, and it turned the whole series around because those guys weren't killing you on that team. And then the Dodgers had to rely on the Will Smiths of the world and the Justin Turners and guys like that. And that's the difference when it comes to why I think the Mets are so hard to beat, because there's not an easy out in this lineup. Your number 7 hitter can be who was 7th yesterday? Escobar? I mean, come on. Like your 9th hitter was Lugo. Your number 8 hitter was McNeil. That's hard to beat. And that's why I think the Mets are a team to be reckoned with this year. Yeah, and look, everybody who was killing J.D. Davis, my guy, by the way, you guys know, I was all advocating for J.D. Davis before the season when we had 3 guys who we were like, all right, who is going to be the DH every day for this Mets team? I was advocating for J.D. Davis from day 1. And if you follow my channel since the beginning of the year, during the offseason, during the lockout, I kept on saying, if J.D. Davis is not going to get traded and he's going to be on this roster, J.D. Davis needs to be the DH almost every day. I get you want to put up a lefty bat if there's a righty on the mound every now and then, but J.D. Davis is a guy everybody forgets in a full season, not a bullshit 60-game season like Dominic Smith did. A full season in 2019, his first year with the Mets, he batted over 270. He had a 280 average. He hit over 20 home runs and knocked in 75 RBIs. That is a guy who finally got some starting time, who everybody liked his bat. If you play J.D. Davis every day, I would not be surprised if you get 20 home runs for him, batting him 6th or 7th in the lineup, and I guarantee you he can hit 270 because that's the type of hitter J.D. Davis is. Everybody forgets in 2021, he was injured and still came back and tried to play through his injury the entire year. After the opening series against Philadelphia getting hit in the wrist, he was never the same player and never got consistent playing time because he was out because his wrist hurt this day. He never was able to get his full rotation of his hand, his arm and his wrist through the strike zone with his bat. He's healthy now. I said this. I kept on being a big supporter of J.D. Davis. J.D. Davis is a better hitter, all-around hitter than Dominic Smith. I think Dominic Smith is more of an all or nothing guy, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when it comes to a team that needs a little bit of that needs some power, but also a guy who can handle a bat and hit for average, JD Davis is your guy. And I've said that from the beginning of the season. JD Davis has to be playing every day in the DH spot. Buck Showalter wanted JD Davis in the lineup so much yesterday. He played him at first base. He hasn't played there in 4 years in 2018 with the Astros. That's how much Buck Showalter likes his bat. Even when JD Davis was struggling, Buck Showalter was an advocate for JD Davis because he always liked his bat. You never heard Buck Showalter says he likes Dominic Smith's bat. He says he's a nice player. He's a good guy. He's working hard. That's what you heard from Buck Showalter in regards to Dominic Smith. When they asked him about JD Davis when he was struggling, he said, I really like his bat. I think he has something in there. He's also a good guy. He's a guy that I think the bat can get going if he gets more playing time. Boom. That's the difference between JD Davis and Dominic Smith. Buck Showalter put those two in perspective and put those two guys in a nutshell on what he thinks of those two players. And I believed it. And as much as you guys can call me out on Jeff McNeil and Edwin Diaz, when I thought Jeff McNeil was never going to turn back to the hitter he proved me wrong, including Edwin Diaz. But I was right about JD Davis. And I think JD Davis is going to be one of the difference makers going forward on this team. Michael, how about them bums? Yeah, it's basically this team. Look, for the most part, the Mets have been very lucky with their position players not getting injured. So they basically had their full lineup for the entire year so far. I think that's a big reason why this team is playing so well. But when you have 3/5 of your rotation out on the IL, I don't think anybody could expect the 38 wins or 19 games over 500 and 9 games up in the division. It's kind of hard to think when you have your two aces on the shelf and basically your number 2 who started opening day for you in McGill, who's been out as well. I mean, you had Scherzer out for a month. You had McGill out for a month. You had DeGrom out for the entire season. I mean, it's amazing what Trevor Williams and David Peterson are doing in this rotation. I mean, Trevor Williams has under a 3 ERA in his last 6 games. I mean, that's insane. Yeah, Michael, I know a lot of people were. You weren't the only one. A lot of people were worried about Escobar. I was not. You know, he wasn't 37 years old. Like, oh, age is going to catch up to him. No. I thought Escobar was going to hit. I just think that he just got into a rough start in the beginning. I don't know if it was New York. I don't know if it was just trying to do too much to impress the fans. Whatever it was, something was getting to him when he was at bat. I just think he needed the confidence to show that he still got it. And I think he's going to take off. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think the lineup came out as of yet. But I wouldn't be surprised Escobar is batting behind Pete Alonso tonight. Guaranteed. And that's a guarantee right there. And I guarantee you it's going to be Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, Escobar, Davis, or Kana. Which one? Davis, Kana. Probably Mazzicchi will get the start today. And McNeil. So I think that's going to be a nice lineup. And again, McNeil's your number 8 hitter, and he's batting over 320. So it's crazy. Yeah, Escobar was running so hard yesterday, Adventures. he was hustling it. You know, when he first hit the ball, he wasn't running hard the first because the way the ball looked, it looked like the right fielder was going to get to it, but it kept on tailing to the right field line. And as soon as he saw that the ball might tail away, he started. As soon as he passed first baseman, he was them over 30 years of age legs where he was trying to find any energy in those legs to get going, and he did it. I mean, it was great for Escobar, and if anybody needed that type of performance, it was Eduardo Escobar. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a couple. That's a good stat. I didn't even think of that. You know, that's a good call, Ryan. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm assuming it happened. I mean, a combined no-hitter, sure. You know, it's a little different. You know, you probably have to look back on a regular no-hitter with a cycle. I mean, that might have happened. But I think when Scott Harrison for the Mets hit for a cycle in 2012, the Mets lost that game like 18-9. So, I mean, at least we won the game when he hit for the cycle, because then it wouldn't have meant as much. Avengers bet the Mets tonight. I love that. I see there's a lot of new people in the stream right now. Let me just get to everybody really quick. Let's see. Yeah, Keith, the difference with last year compared to this year with Taijuan Walker is that last year was his first full season since I think 2018. So, and that was in the beginning of 2018. I was when the Tommy John surgery hit. So he was injured for all those seasons and never really had a full season under his belt. That was the most pitches, innings he'd thrown the first half prior to the 2017 season. So, prior to the 2018 season. So I think this year, when he had all those innings under his belt, he's not going to run out of gas like he did last year, because that's what happened. It's not that his stuff was gone. He just ran out of energy, and it was clear. Oh, Ruben, that's awesome. Escobar is broom. Oh, I like that. That's a white boy trying to say that with no rolling of the tongue. So there you go, guys. Eric said it. Hit on that like button, guys. Let's go. Paul, greetings. How you doing? I see there's a couple more people, so let me just say what up to everybody. We got Anthony. I'm going to call you Alien, because I don't know what to call you, so I'm going to call you Alien. Yeah, Joe Maddon did get fired. Well, losing 12 in a row, you should get fired. Michael, we'll talk about McGill in a second. Ryan. We got Swishy. We got Sean. Marcus. I don't play. We got Daryl, Ethan, Joey, Yo Elvis, Steven. What's up, guys? I'll get to all everybody's comments as soon as possible. Yeah, Michael, about McGill. Anthony, yes, the Mets are rocking and rolling, absolutely. Yeah, Anthony. McGill is so far what I've heard, he's going to be pitching either Friday or Saturday in the Angel series. So he's only pitching one rehab start. I'm assuming he's going to pitch a bullpen probably tomorrow and see how he feels. But, when it comes to McGill, in his first start back against the Angels, he's probably not throwing more than 60 pitches, because he threw 53 in the minor league start. So the most he'll throw is 60 pitches. So that means you got to get your bullpen up early, because it's possible he might throw 60 pitches in 3 innings, and now you got to use your bullpen for the next 6. So I would give McGill another rehab start just to be 100% safe, so you can get his pitch count up to 70 or 80. So at least you can have him for 5 or 6 innings, most likely, going into the homestand against the Brewers, or even the Marlins for that matter. Yeah, his average dropped 40 points. That's another guy. And, he has that attitude where if he's not doing well, he don't care what the team is doing. So, he can be 0 for 25 and the team's winning, and he will be moping in the corner. And look at the throw he made last night, where he made a really nice play on an Alonso ground, a hard hit ball, and he lollypopped the ball, and it was offline and it was low, and took Hosmer off the bag. So that's a player I never want on my team. It brings down the team. Yeah, I don't want to see JD Davis here every day. Every time Pete gets a day off, I want to see JD Davis. He was reasonable yesterday. Again, he didn't have a lot of opportunities to pick balls out of the dirt. The short hops, making a lot of tough plays at first base, making sure he cuts the ball off. It's different when you're a third baseman cutting the ball off, when you only have to worry about the left fielder. I played third base, so most of the time you only have to worry about cutting off the left fielder when a guy's on second base in scoring position trying to cut off the ball to throw the ball home or get the runner from preventing him to go into second. When you're a first baseman, you're going to have to be either the secondary cutoff guy when it comes to the center fielder, or sometimes if the ball's hitting the gap, you got to run out there a little bit to be the third cutoff guy. So you have a lot of intangibles as a first baseman. You don't just sit there at first base. So do I want to see JD Davis? Most times, no. But at the end of the day, if you need Alonso to take care of his legs a little bit and DH him, I'll put JD Davis out there. If JD Davis is hitting the way he's hitting, he's in the lineup every day. If that's first base or if that's DH, he's going to be in the lineup every day if he keeps on hitting. Yeah, Ruben, agree. We take the series, we're 4-3. I'll take that. Now we only have to win one more game on the West Coast trip after the San Diego series to be 5-5. So no matter what, if we win one more game, we're guaranteed a 4-6 road trip. And some people before the West Coast trip said 4-6 and 5-5. We would take that on a tough West Coast trip. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Again, even though he hasn't played there in a couple of years, I don't want to. JD Davis did look a little awkward at first base. So, but then again, Pete Alonso looks awkward every day at first base, but still finds a way to make plays. So, excuse me, we didn't see JD Davis, have a guy on first and now ground balls hit to him, making that turn and throwing the ball to second base and getting back to first. There's a lot of intangibles at first base. We didn't see JD Davis have to do much yesterday. When that time comes when he has to make that throw to second base where he has to throw it over the runner or around the runner to throw it to second base to try to get a double play, can he make that throw? Can he get back to first base? Where they position him, does he know? Should he go after the ball that might be between first and second, or does he run to first base? A lot of things that JD Davis didn't have to deal with yesterday that we don't know if he can handle as of yet. So, JD Davis was serviceable at first base, did what he had to do yesterday, but the big reason why JD Davis was in that lineup last night, not because Buck Showalter wanted to see him at first base, because his bat is high, and it showed again yesterday. Yeah, I would just keep JD Davis at the DH spot, occasionally first base. I don't want to see JD Davis in the outfield. There's a reason why he hasn't played there all year. I don't want him in the outfield. First base, fine, I can deal with. Let him be the DH. I think he'll be fine. Well, JD Davis, I don't think is a very good third baseman. He can catch the ball. He has a problem throwing the ball. That's the biggest problem with him at third base. That's why I want to see him when he plays first base. Can he make that throw where you don't have to do a spinorama after you catch the ball to throw the ball to second, either over or around the runner, and then get back to the bag? That's something that we have to see JD Davis do as well. Especially, Pete Alonso is definitely going to be an all-star, no doubt about it. Hey, listen, I'd be very happy. The Mets win tonight. I'm happy with the series win. We'll be 5-, even if we lose the last game of the series, we'll be 4-3. That's perfectly fine with me. So, I'm sorry, not 4-3, 5-3 going into the no wait, I'm losing my train of 4-3. Right? We won today. We're 3-2. We won today. Yeah, we'll be 4-3 going into the Angels series. Which, again, worst case scenario 4-6, best case scenario 7-3, or 6-3, or 5-4, or 5-5. So, yeah. Adventures. I never look past the Marlins. The Marlins always have our number. They have a very good pitching rotation. They got a very good bullpen. Again, I'm not too scared of their lineup. It's the pitching that worries me. But then again, we haven't seen this Mets team who works the counts, doesn't strike out a lot, against a pitching team like the Marlins. This lineup can overcome the pitching staff of the Marlins because they don't strike out a lot. The Marlins pitchers have a lot of strikeouts. So, again, I always never look past the Marlins. Too many people do. Too many Met fans do. I never look past the Marlins. But we have a test coming back in a homestand. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be at a lot of games in the next homestand because I will be in Vegas that week when the Mets are home with family. So, yeah. So I'll be in Vegas. But don't worry, I will be doing probably a different type of live stream during the game because I will be on the West Coast. So the games will be at 4 o'clock in Vegas. So on the West Coast. So I will probably have to stream the game on my phone while going live. As long as the Wi-Fi is pretty good at the hotel, I should be okay. But most likely I will just do pre and post game Depending on the situation, it's Vegas. I'm not going to be in a hotel a lot, so I agree, Ryan. We all sign up for that type of record in June so far. Yeah, I think Jake just wanted to stay in New York, so he didn't have to. He has all his doctors. He has all his therapists. He can just go to City Field. A quick ride from where he lives. Take a ride out every day to City Field. Warm up with no attention because Degrom is the guy where if he was on the West Coast with the team, warming up in the bullpen or throwing the ball in the outfield, the cameras would be all over him. They would be asking him for interviews. DeGrom is not that type of guy that wants to be in the spotlight in that situation. He just wants to do his job, rehab on his own, rehab without any distractions. That's what DeGrom always is. So I think DeGrom thought otherwise, didn't want a distraction based on him when the cameras and the media should be on the team. So I like that from DeGrom. I agree. Ruben, you saw it with Cano, and that was the start of everything. I think that not only told the team that the Mets are in it to win it, but Steve Cohen is the real deal. Epler is the real deal. Because a lot of Met fans thought that the Mets were not going to cut Cano because of the salary. A lot of people thought Dominic Smith was never going to get sent down to the minors. They did both because they were baseball decisions. When you have an owner that tells you GM make the best baseball decision and not tells you keep this guy because of the money, that's a different type of owner. That tells your entire team, not just the fan base, the entire team, that this team is in it for the long haul. This team is going to do everything it takes. This owner will do whatever it takes to win. And that's why Met fans are so more excited because of the start we had. But not only that, even though this team is so good without DeGrom, without Scherzer, without McGill, in the next, I would say, month and a half, we might actually have DeGrom, Scherzer, McGill, Carrasco, and Walker in the same rotation, guys. Imagine that with a team that's already 9 games up, 19 games over 500. That's amazing. And that's before the trade deadline. I mean, you're basically making 3 pitching trades or additions to this team before the trade deadline. So that's, and the Mets are going to make moves. If it's the big bat they might need, or that big bullpen arm that they might need, or another depth piece in the rotation. There's so much they can use and that they can get. And everybody knows the Mets are going to get it. Again, it might not be everybody you want because there is other teams that are going to be involved in the same amount of players that the Mets are in. But the Mets are going to do something. I mean, we're getting 3 additions in the next month and a half. McGill should be back sometime this weekend. You'll have Scherzer probably sometime at the end of June, first week in July. And all signs are leading to DeGrom moving well in his rehab, who might be back by the middle to end of July. So in the next month and a half, we might have all our pitchers back. And that's going to be with the team that is already 19 games over 500. It's awesome. I don't play. That's true. I like that comment about JT for sure. I don't play. Exactly. Listen, you guys know I can be very critical of a player, but I also put my foot in my mouth when a player does what I didn't expect. For example, Jeff McNeil. I was very hard on Jeff McNeil before the season. I did not think he was going to turn into the hitter he was in 2019 and parts of 2020 and somewhat of 2018. I didn't think so. But when you're a fan, you can be critical of a player, but still root for the jersey. And that's what I do. I'm glad. And I told you this when I was critical of McNeil before the season. I said, I hope that Jeff McNeil would shut me up and play like the player he was a couple of years ago. He has done that. The same thing with Edwin Diaz. But everybody, there wasn't a lot of people, if at all, that was in my corner with J.D. Davis when it came to Dominic Smith or J.D. Davis as the DH. Everybody, for the most part, chose Dominic Smith over J.D. Davis. And I thought they were absolutely wrong. At the moment, on June 7th, I'm right so far. Because I think JD Davis is a bat that I think can work well into this lineup every day. Yeah, honestly, Daryl, that's a good point. If the Mets were in the AL East, now, I mean, in the AL East, yeah, the Yankees and Mets would probably beat up on each other, but I think the Mets are better than the Blue Jays. I think the Mets are better than the Rays, and all the teams that the Yankees face and the Mets would have faced. I mean, as good as the Yankees are, the Mets are what, 2 games worse than the Yankees, and the Mets have played better teams than the Yankees. So, I mean, what does that tell you? Again, it's hard to judge the Yankees and the Mets because the Mets have faced good teams, and to compare the two, it's hard. But the fun part about this is that we got. I mean, New York sports right now is so much fun right now. You got the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals up 2-1, Game 4 tonight. You got the Mets in first place, 9 games up. You got the Yankees in first place. I think they're 6.5 up. I mean, besides, the Nets, even though they're a team that nobody cares about, they were a team that had championship aspirations. A lot of people think Donovan Mitchell might be coming to the Knicks. The Jets and the Giants are trying to revamp their team, so that always gets fans excited about the season because new coach, new GM, new players, a really good draft from both teams gets the fan base excited. We have an opportunity to, in the next 5 years, to have dominant teams in our city, like Boston has been having those seasons when the Bruins won, the Red Sox won, the Patriots won. Even though there's only one team from each sport in Boston, even if you're not rooting for a team, like obviously Met fans are not going to be rooting for the Yankees to win a World Series if the Mets are not in it. Usually most Met fans are going to root for the other team. But to see New York be vibrant again, to see fans just loving, I mean, you don't even hear complaints on sports talk radio right now from baseball fans. Like it's a new era in New York sports, and I love it. Yeah, I mean, our weakest hitter in a lineup is catcher. But let's be honest, Nito has been pretty damn good, and I like Nito a lot. If he gets a lot of playing time, a lot of the times he puts the bat on the ball, unlike James McCann, unlike other catchers that we had. He puts the bat on the ball. And James McCann, sometimes he just looks like he doesn't even have a chance at the plate. At least with Nito, I always feel like he'll at least put the bat on the ball. He might make out, but he'll put the bat on the ball. Yeah, I agree, Ethan. The Mets do got to get the Darvish early. And like I said earlier, guys, Darvish, I checked the stat out about his pitches in the strike zone. He throws 77%. I'm going to say that again. 77% of pitches out of the strike zone. So for a Mets team that doesn't strike out a lot, that doesn't chase a lot out of the zone, it works into the Mets' favor because Darvish is either going to walk a lot of guys or is going to have to come into the zone more often than not because the Mets are going to have hitter counts where Darvish can't walk guys. He has to throw the ball over the middle of the plate or in the strike zone where the Mets can do damage. So not only do they have to get to him early, but they have to lay off of the garbage that he throws outside the strike zone. The Mets do that, they have a path to victory in Game 2. Yeah, Rocky, I agree. Listen, I hope Dominic Smith hits 390 and hits a couple of home runs in AAA. So his value might go up a little bit for the trade deadline. He will be traded. There's no doubt about that. It might be for a big pitching bullpen arm. It might be for a big bat, but there's no doubt about it. He will be traded at the deadline. No doubt about that. I think there's 100% chance Dominic Smith gets traded at the deadline. Yeah, I know everybody was going crazy. Oh, we got to bring Alvarez up here. We need the power, but he's not ready at catcher. You don't want a veteran rotation dealing with a rookie catcher who, if he's going 0 for 3 in a game and looks bad at the plate, you don't want him to take that on the field. And now he's got to deal with runners stealing bases. He's got to worry about what pitch to throw, pitchers shaking off. Like, you don't need to deal with all that right now. Let Alvarez get better at catcher. He's already a great hitter, so I'm not worried about him hitting. Let him continue to work to frame the pitches, working on blocking pitches. He already has a cannon of an arm, so I'm not worried about that. Working on getting a good relationship with his pitching staff, stuff like that. That's the intangibles I want him to learn in the minors. The hitting's there. The strong arm is there. He's got to work on his pitch framing, his blocking, and working with his relationships with his pitchers. Making sure he's on the same page with his pitcher so we don't have to put down 4 or 5 signs just to get the right pitch the pitcher wants. And that's when pitchers get frustrated. You've seen it so far with Chris Bassett without James McCann. How many times he's been shaking off Mazika or Nito with his 9 pitches that he throws. I think the one person who has struggled because of the loss of James McCann has been Chris Bassett. Because Bassett is a guy, if he works fast, he does very well. But because he's shaking these pitches off and not on the same page with his catchers, he's shaking off a lot, which slows down what he really likes to do, and that's pitching fast. And I think that's hurt Bassett over the last month or over the last 3 weeks. Joey, let's go Mets. JD has been clutch. Absolutely. Grant, a member of Talking Mets Rob. What's up, buddy? It's all good. Yeah, exactly. You know what? That's a great point, Anthony. Lugo and Gesellman is similar to what Williams and Peterson did in 2015, even 2016 for that matter. It was amazing. So, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. Again, you don't expect Trevor Williams to have, if he was left in the rotation at the end of the year because DeGrom couldn't come back, you probably expect him to give up runs, not pitch the way he's been pitching the entire year. But Peterson, I think, is a deal breaker because I think he is a guy who can be a number 4, possibly a number 3 starter. Williams is a depth piece, a guy who can, who's a serviceable number 5 starter, who is a guy you could throw in a bullpen as a long man. But that's a great point, Anthony. Williams and Peterson are like Lugo and Gesellman 6 or 7 years ago. That's a great point. Yeah, exactly. McGill was the first man up when it came to a guy, our first depth piece in the minors. Remember, McGill was going to be in this rotation because DeGrom is out, but then he had to be the big man on opening day because Scherzer couldn't get ready for opening day because of that injury. So, I mean, it's amazing what the Mets have done pitching-wise. All right, let's see what else you got. Let's see. Elvis, I don't know if he'll come back to earth. Everybody's going based on last year. Everybody forgets that Taijuan Walker's this was his first full season since 2017. So it's hard to say, oh, well, he's going to come back down to earth. Why? Why do you expect that? Not saying he's going to be first half like last year, Taijuan Walker. He hasn't been first half Taijuan Walker this year. He's been up and down. But if he gives me 5 innings, 6 innings, 2 or 3 runs, I take that every day of the week. He's your number 4 starter when your rotation is healthy. So I take that every day of the week. And the difference, the big thing with Taijuan Walker, he keeps the team in the ball game. And with this team that likes to come back, that's all you can ask for Taijuan Walker. Steven, Rob, do you think Joe Girardi heading to the Angels? Maybe at the end of the year, but not during the season. JC, I appreciate you subscribing to the channel, buddy. Love your channel photo. That is scary as hell, but awesome as well. I appreciate it. So new subscriber to the channel, guys. Shout out to JC. And I do like his comment. Medina will be a steal for us. Ice and Veins, LFGM. I agree. 100%. Medina in Dodger Stadium in a tough situation with the ghost runner on second and trying to get the save and protect a 1-run lead. I mean, that guy, has brass balls, man. I mean, that's not easy to do at all. And I love that about Medina. And that's a guy that you want to keep around because he's He's a guy that is not afraid of the big moment. And that was a big moment yesterday. I mean, you heard what the Dodgers players said after the games or after the series, and the Mets said after the series. It was playoff atmosphere. It felt like a playoff series. So just imagine how the players felt. And that was a ton of pressure that Medina was put into, and he did the job well. Great comment by you, and thank you for subscribing to the channel, JC. You see, that's a possibility. So he would. I think Syndergaard is pitching on Sunday. But I think McGill, again, it could be either Friday or Saturday because of the off day on Thursday before the Angels series. You kind of can push everybody back a little bit and give everybody an extra day. But it could be either Friday or Saturday. I guess the best matchup that day, I guess he would do. So it's either going to be Friday or Saturday. I hope the Rangers win tonight. I really hope so. Ventures, that's a good point. I saw that comment earlier. I kind of passed it up on accident. But yeah, I don't know. Look, I think the reason why Buck Showalter did not pitch him 2 innings is not because he don't think Diaz can do it. I think because he was worried at the fact that he wasn't going to have a lot of pitchers going into the Padres series, bullpen arms, because he used a lot of them in the LA series, especially in game 3 and 4. So I don't think he didn't want to put Diaz in because he don't think he can do it. I think he wanted to save Diaz for the Padres series for maybe 2, possibly 3 games in a row, just in case he needed Diaz. But I don't think Buck Showalter will hesitate. If he needs Diaz to pitch 2 innings to make a save, I think he'll do it. I don't think he has to if he doesn't need to. But if it comes to a point where he has to, I think he will. Yeah, obviously, I don't see why you would say that. The Braves, again, if the Mets keep on doing what they're doing, the Braves are never going to catch the Mets. Let's be honest, the Mets have to go on a 10, 11 game losing streak, and the Braves have to win 10 in a row for them to even, for the most part, catch them. And I'm not worried about the Braves yet. I mean, the Braves have been playing well, but yet they only gained in total a game and a half on the Mets in over the last 6 days. So all the Mets have to do is continuing to knock days off the schedule. And when there's a day that you knock off the schedule where even if you might lose and the Braves lose, you knock another day off the schedule and you do not lose the game. If you win and the Braves win, another game is off the schedule. So that's the way I see it. Now, I still think the Braves are going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be a wild card team. And I still think the Braves are going to win close to 90, 91 games. If everybody looked at my season projections and my division projections going into the season, I had the Braves winning this division by 2 or 3 games. But I honestly didn't think the Braves were going to be as bad as they are. It's not that, it's just they don't feel like the same team without Freeman. And I think that's a big problem with this Braves team. They don't have a leader on that team. Stoney, what's up, buddy? Glad you're here. Hobbyist, let's go Rangers, baby. Let's take that. Let's get game 5 as the clincher. Let's go into game 5 as us to make the Stanley Cup finals. How great, how electric will Madison Square Garden be in game 5 if the Rangers have a chance to win and clinch their spot in the Stanley Cup finals. Oh my God. And I'm telling you guys, I know this is the Mets channel, but I might go live during a Stanley Cup game or 2. I don't know if a lot of you guys would like that, but I know it's a Mets channel, but it might be like an exclusive live stream content because I'm a diehard Ranger fan, and that would be a lot of fun. And you know what? The cool thing about going live during hockey games is that you got intermission. Baseball, you get a little bit of time between commercials after each inning, and you don't have a lot to say, but you got the pregame, and then you got the constant reactions during the game. Oh, it would be great. Hockey's a little bit different because You know, it's not the same with MLB Game Day where you can put up the hockey rink and it'll show you what's going on and each play, penalties here, shots here, and all that stuff. It's cool, but it's not the same to follow baseball as it is hockey, or hockey as it is baseball on game day. So I would have to do a little bit more play by play in hockey. Again, I never done that before, but it would be fun to do. But if you guys want me to do it, and it'll be like an exclusive live stream for this channel, if you're a Ranger fan, if you want to tune in, why the hell not, right? Victor, it was his first time as a Met, but he played first base for the Astros in 2018. I think he had 4 starts at first base in 2018. Swishy, so far, Lindor has been one of the best shortstops in the game. Trevor Story has a little bit of say in it as well, but for the most part, Lindor has been damn good. I agree, obvious. Anthony, insane pitching staff and new kind of murderers role. I agree with that. Yeah, the Mets have a shaky bullpen, but look at the ERA. Their ERA as a whole bullpen is around 3.35, 3.4, which is basically fifth best in the National League, like 8th best in baseball. So they haven't been as bad as you thought, as you think. Just because they've blown a couple of games this year, or sometimes they didn't pitch well, go around the league. Most bullpens are shaky. So again, I think the Mets are going to get a bullpen arm or two, but they haven't been as bad as people think they have been. So, when your bullpen ERA in total is 4 or higher, then you worry. But when you have a 3.5 ERA as a bullpen, that's pretty good considering how many innings bullpens pitch nowadays. You got to remember, people are like, oh, look what the Yankees had back in the day. Look what the Mariners had back in the day. Yeah, but most of the starters were going 7-8 innings, and they were using 2 guys out of the bullpen most days. Most times they would have 4 or 5 guys in their bullpen, not like 9 or 10 like they do now, because bullpens pitch 4 or 5 innings a ball game now. Back in the day, it was 1 or 2, maybe 3 sometimes. Ryan, never go to a 6-man rotation with a veteran rotation. Never. You never want to get them out of their fundamentals, their routine. Every 5th day, Bassett, Carrasco, Scherzer, DeGrom, they've done that their entire career. You don't want to mess with a 6-man rotation. Worst case scenario, if you got to take out one of these guys, put them in the bullpen. That's all. I agree, Sweaty. If our lineup is so much more scarier with Escobar performing to the back of his baseball card. No doubt about that. That's guaranteed. And when it comes to Escobar, he was the guy that was supposed to be the protection behind Pete Alonso. I said that earlier in the stream. He was the guy that was supposed to be the guy that hit 25 to 30 home runs, who was an RBI machine behind Pete Alonso. That protection hasn't been there the first 2 months. If he starts getting hot, he's the guy that could be the difference maker behind Pete Alonso in this lineup and will make them even more dangerous going forward. Grant, yeah, Trevor Rosenthal was checked out by almost every Major League Ball club. He was throwing 95, 96. All his pitches looked sharp, but I don't know if you heard, in the last pitch he threw, he kind of hobbled off the mound. I think it was like a little cramp. It wasn't nothing serious. It was like a cramp in the last pitch he thrown. He didn't speak to reporters or scouts. So I don't know what that means, but I mean, it's a low risk, high reward. I mean, you could always, I think the way to get those type of pitchers, a guy who who is not on the Major League roster, who's trying to come back, most of the time they're going to decline a minor league contract. So the best way to probably do it is probably give him a Major League deal and give him a shot and throw him in situations where you might need him. And if he performs well, great. We got a good arm in a bullpen for no money. If he pitches bad, well, you cut him and you don't lose much. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I think you would have to give him a Major League contract. Yeah, Victor, I really hope that DeGrom, because I know Scherzer is going to come back. McGill is obviously coming back. DeGrom still is that 50-50 category. You never know until, DeGrom might be ready to come back. He'll pitch one game, and then now you're looking at Twitter every 2 seconds to make sure there's no update on DeGrom not feeling great after that start. So if I'm telling you guys right now, if we see DeGrom come back and he's healthy with Scherzer, with Carrasco, with Walker, with McGill, that's a very bad, hard rotation to face during the season. I mean, it's very hard to have 3-game losing streak. Oh, wait, the Mets have not have a 3-game losing streak this year without DeGrom, without Scherzer, and without McGill. That's unprecedented territories, guys. That's uncalled for. That's unheard of. The Mets are the last team in baseball who hasn't had a 3-game losing streak yet. That's a big deal. And that's including the start of their West Coast trip when everybody could have bet their houses that the Mets were going to lose three in a row to the Dodgers after the first 2 games. And the Mets found a way to take 204 and still haven't had a 3-game losing streak. Hobbyists, let's go Rangers, baby. Let's go Rangers. I would do the goal song, but you got to be excited to do the goal song, you know? Yeah, Rocky. I don't know if it was Buck Showalter that talked to Billy Epler and like, I really like this guy. Let's try to keep him if we can. Again, if there was a big deal out there and McNeil had to be a part of it and it was to bring a big-time bat, maybe the Mets would have pulled the trigger, but I don't think they would wanted to do it for a bullpen arm. And we talked about that during the offseason. Well, you could trade McNeil for a good bullpen arm. You know, it was never a consideration you could trade McNeil for a big bat. I think Buck Showalter kind of, maybe even Eric Chavez was like, I think we can fix this guy. Maybe it was. I think maybe it was a combination of everybody. I don't know. Yeah, Giovanni, I don't like comparing, Mets are better than the Yankees, Yankees are better than the Mets. I don't like to do that because it's hard to determine a Yankees team who hasn't really faced anybody all year and a Mets team who, for the most part, have faced teams that are pretty good. But it's hard to judge because if you play them against each other, say if you play them 10 games in a row, they'll probably split the series. Like, it's just, that's the way a Subway Series goes. When it comes to a 7-game series, somebody's got to win the series. But it just seems to me that if you play the Mets and the Yankees with this current roster, everybody healthy, 10 games, most of the time it's going to be they're both going to win 5 games each. That's the way I see it. No matter, yes, the Angels did fire Joe Maddon. He is gone from the Angels. Well, when you lose 12 in a row, somebody's got to take the blame. Well, I never thought Joe Maddon was a really good manager. I never thought he was a good manager at all. He was so overrated, in my opinion. You know, I know he was good with the Rays, but, you know, when you have a $260, $70 million payroll and you can't even smell 500 over the last couple of years or make the playoffs with Ohtani and Trout and Rendon and at that point Pujols and, you know, yes, they needed pitching and you can blame the GM for that, but they didn't play in a division that was tough. Other than the Astros, there was nobody good in that division. They could have made the wild card sometimes, and they couldn't even do that. So, you know, yes, it was more about the players as well, but Joe Maddon puts that team in a lot of awkward spots, taking out pitchers at the wrong time, taking out a bullpen arm or starter that's doing well because of analytics, putting in a bullpen arm that doesn't make sense. The lineups are constructed weird. Look at the Angels lineup when I was watching them when the Yankees were playing them. The lineup was awkward. Like, it just didn't make sense. You know, he might be a bright guy, but sometimes I wonder, you know, with the Rays, he had to be creative because they weren't spending money. You know, they had to mix up the lineup and bat the pitcher 8, or I mean, you know, you know, with the Cubs, bat the pitcher 8, or with the Rays, you know, put your power hitter leading off and stuff like that. Like, let's be honest, haven't the Yankees trying to mimic the Rays in the past or in the last couple of years, put in Judge leading off and all that crap, which nobody used to do until the Rays did it, and then a lot of teams try to replicate it. So Joe Maddon had to be creative with the Rays. He did well with the Cubs, but then again, the Cubs were due to win, and they had a young team that was ready to win. And with the Angels, it just seemed like with a team with a payroll like that, let the players play. I just think he put too much pride in making sure he was known every game, and I think that's a big problem and why he got fired. I agree, Giovanni. I think if we win tonight, we're going to sweep the Padres. Some people have been talking about that. There's been rumors about the Mets actually trying to go after, thinking about going after Wilson Contreras. I think if they lose out on JD Martinez or a big bat that could be a DH guy, I think they can pivot to Wilson Contreras because the Cubs aren't going anywhere. They're not signing Wilson Contreras. And, the Cubs can use a first baseman. They could use a couple of pieces, a prospect. They're trying to rebuild their team. So I think you can look out for that. I don't think the Mets necessarily – that might be number 3 on the list behind a big bat, DH-wise, and a bullpen arm. But if they think it's too expensive to get a bat like a JD Martinez and would rather give a nice package for Wilson Contreras, because if there's a similar package for JD Martinez and Wilson Contreras, you're going to go with the better overall guy in Wilson Contreras who can be your catcher, who can hit for power, have good defense. You would want to give a better, if it's a somewhat of a similar deal package, like prospect-wise, going to the Red Sox for Martinez or the Cubs for Contreras, I would lean towards Contreras because there's more you can get from Contreras than you would for Martinez, who is predominantly a DH. Yeah, well, no, many. The difference with Pete Alonso, he's not swinging at that garbage slider. But tonight's a big test for Pete Alonso because, Darvish has that wicked slider. And Achilles' heel for Pete Alonso has been that slider on the outside on the outside corner that cuts away out of the strike zone. That's been his big problem. If he lays off of those pitches, once again, 77% of Yu Darvish's pitches this year have been outside the strike zone. So he throws a lot of garbage. The Mets' best asset, because of their high on-base percentage, have been taking a lot of pitches, not swinging at balls outside the zone, and taking the walks when they're given. That's why I think it's a bad matchup for Yu Darvish. But again, if you're swinging at it, you're going to have a problem tonight. But I think the Mets can win tonight. Josh Bell is another option too. That's a guy, I don't know if the Nationals would trade them to the Mets, but at the end of the day, guys, Josh Bell is another option. He hasn't been really hitting crazy power, but he's definitely been hitting for average. That's a good job, Giovanni, about Bell. No, man, I don't think we need Scherzer and McGill to come back more than we need DeGrom back. The Mets can still find a way to win a World Series without DeGrom if you do what you need to do at the trade deadline with bullpen and an extra big bat. I don't hate James McCann. I just, besides him being a really good defensive catcher and works well with the pitchers, the reason why Sandy Alderson got him, and he said this in the press conference when he decided to go after James McCann over JT Realmuto, he says he thinks his bat is going to project well for the Mets. He didn't even talk about his defense. He talked about his bat. So as much as everybody's like, you're killing James McCann is not a good player. He's not a good offensive player. He's really good behind the plate, and I give him all the credit in the world for that. But with a team like this, we don't need a bat. We don't need a good offensive bat as catcher. If our worst hitter in the lineup is our catcher, I can deal with James McCann because he's really good behind the plate. Defensively. But let's be honest. Is James McCann or Tomas Nido any different? They're both very good behind the plate. James McCann does have a better arm than Nido, but Nido throws out runners as well. And Nido's just as good as James McCann behind the plate. So you paid $40 million for a catcher who can't hit a lick, but is just as good as Tomas Nido defensively. So it's kind of hard to say why I don't hate James McCann. I just don't think you had to pay $40 million for a defensive catcher when you can get a defensive catcher for a few $1,000,000. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, they're just not hitting. That's the bigger problem. And listen, I really hope they win the next two against Boston because I don't want them to be on a 14-game losing streak playing the Mets. Look at the Dodgers. They were going on a 3-game losing streak, losing to the Pirates. You don't want that scenario against the Angels. Let them beat Boston the next two games. Yeah, Dallas Keuchel just signed with the a minor league deal with the Diamondbacks, so no point of talking about him now. DJ, he signed a minor league deal with the Diamondbacks. All right, guys. So we got about a half hour left, so I'm just going to try to get to everybody before the stream ends at 7. The Blind Beard, how you doing, buddy? We have to make sure we keep. That's true. I agree with that. Let's see, Blind Beard. I'm so worried about the match treating Pete Alonso to the Dodgers. I don't think you have to worry about that. Ruben, if and when the rotation gets healthy, instead of sending Peterson down, why can't he go into the bullpen? That's a possibility, but I don't see Peterson being a bullpen guy. I don't think he projects well as a bullpen arm. Again, they can try it, but I think you would like Peterson. You send him back down, keep him in the wings just in case of another injury. The last thing you want to do is have him in the bullpen, and now you need him to pitch every day because of an injury, and now you got to stretch him out again while using him in a game when he might go 3 or 4 innings. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think Trevor Williams is just a guy who is perfect in either spot as a guy who could fill in right away. If he's a long man in the bullpen, that's why Williams is going to be up. He's going to be our long man in the bullpen when everybody is healthy. Peterson is just going to be our extra depth in the minors, unfortunately. Oh, yeah. I don't see the Mets, ripping up his rookie deal and buying his arbitration years this year. But next year, I think they'll rip up the rest of his arbitration years and give him a long-term contract because you got to worry about DeGrom. You got Nimmo to worry about. Most of your rotation is basically free agents: Carrasco, Walker, Bassett. There's 3 guys that are going to be free agents in your rotation. The only guys, even DeGrom for that matter, the only guy you really have is Scherzer, who's actually on the contract. So you got to worry about all them pitchers that might be going out, becoming free agents that you might possibly lose. Rocky is pitching all the right buttons at the moment. Yeah, JC, I just said that. I don't think it makes sense right now because you have a lot of other things you got to worry about. Like I said, DeGrom, Nimmo, Carrasco's a free agent, Bassett's a free agent, Walker's a free agent. There's a lot of guys you got to take care of this coming year, off season. Alonso still got 3 years left. Usually when he gets to 2 years left of arbitration or arbitration eligible, you rip up that contract. So next year, if it's during the 2023 season and you work out a contract, fine. But the Mets will do it. Don't worry about that. But they got other things that they got to worry about this offseason. JD, yeah, I posted on the community page about me possibly doing, I asked everybody in a poll, do you want me to do monthly power rankings or weekly power rankings? I think I put monthly power rankings or weekly. I don't remember what I put, but almost 90% of you, with about 80 votes in, says that you want me to do power rankings. I think it was weekly. So maybe I'll do weekly power rankings. I kind of don't like weekly power rankings when it comes to baseball because, the Angels 2 weeks ago was in the top 5 in power rankings, and now they're not even breaking the top 10. So weekly is kind of annoying because anything can happen within a week. I like monthly projections, power rankings, so I might do the June power rankings for me. Maybe I'll do. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do the power rankings probably sometimes in the middle of the month, and if a lot of people view the the power rankings and they like it, and I get a good viewership on that, I'll do it weekly. If not, I'll do a power rankings monthly. Yeah, Leroy, I agree 100%. I think the leadership on the Braves is just not there. Even though Olsen can have just as good as stats as Freddie Freeman, I think that leadership quality to keep that team together when things are not going well, or even when things are going well, keeping that team intact, they don't have that on that team. Olsen just got to the Braves. He's not going to be a leader. Acuna, I think, is too much of a dramatic, emotional type of guy to be a leader and, calm the team down when things are not going well, because I think he's too emotional to be a team leader. Ozzie Albies, you saw what he did early on in the season, get pissed off at Azunia for not tagging up or not running on the base path. Albies is still a guy, I don't see him as a leader either. So they're a team that I don't think that can just win on talent. We just talked about the Angels, who have talent up and down the lineup, but find a way to can't win. So I think the big reason why the Braves won last year, because, it's no coincidence that the Braves won the World Series without Acuna. Why does nobody talk about that? Like, when you lose your best player, there's no way you should be winning the World Series. So that's an intangible nobody talks about. The Braves won the World Series without Acuna. Why is that? Maybe because his attitude doesn't work well in the clubhouse. Maybe because he's really not a leader and he's too emotional and he's too much of a showboat to be a guy that can be a leader of a team. There's a reason why the Braves won without Acuna. Yes, you can talk about Rosario. You can talk about Soler being a big part of it. Yeah, but you don't lose your best player and win a World Series. That tells you something about Acuna not being a guy that I think can bring the Braves over the top. That's why I'm not giving the Braves much of a chance to win the division. Playoffs, possibly, but division, no. Oh, okay, great. You read the story as well. Okay, cool. Mets lineup is out. I love it. Let's see what we got. So the Mets lineup for tonight against Yu Darvish is Brandon Nimmo leading off, playing second base. Starling Marte batting second, playing right field. Francisco Lindor batting third, playing shortstop. Alonso back at first base, batting cleanup. Jeff McNeil behind Pete Alonso, batting fifth in left field. Eduardo Escobar behind McNeil, batting sixth, playing third base. Luis Guillorme getting a start at second base, batting seventh. Nick Plummer getting a start at DH, batting eighth. And Patrick Mazeika catching, batting ninth. And, of course, Taijuan Walker on the mound. So J.D. Davis is not in the lineup, I think, because Darvish is very, very difficult against right-handers. And obviously, Buck Showalter wants to get as many left-handers in the lineup. The only two right-handers in this lineup is Marte and Alonso. So he's trying to go left-handed dominant in this game. So Nick Plummer, Luis Guillorme is in the lineup other than J.D. Davis and someone else that you probably project to be in the lineup. So that is your lineup for our New York Mets tonight. Let's see. Yeah, Christian, David Robertson, like I said, early in the season, when the Mets had their home opener and you saw Mark Melancon on the Diamondbacks, I was like, wow, the Mets can go get him, and he would be a great setup guy, and also a guy in a situation what Buck did with Diaz pitching him in the eighth. I would be okay with Melancon coming in the ninth because he's closed games in big spots many times as well. Mark Melancon is a guy. David Robertson. There's so many pitchers that you can look at that could be a possible guy who can actually close some games and also could be an eighth inning guy for us as well. Yeah, Michael, I'm not thinking about DeGrom until he's actually back and he has 2 or 3 starts and come out of those starts healthy. Until then, I'm not worried about DeGrom. Who I'm making sure come back is Scherzer and McGill. The MLB draft, I think, is next week, right? If I'm not mistaken. Sometime. Oh, the draft is next month. I think the middle of the month, the 20th or something. Oh, okay. Christian just said it. The July 17th to the 19th. I don't know if the White Sox are going to fall out. They always have a chance to make the wild card. So Graveman and Hendricks are probably not going anywhere. Guillorme has been. I mean, everybody you put in this team has been great. Like, it's crazy. Guillorme, Plummer, Davis starting to hit. Everybody. Well, I think if you get Contreras, I'm assuming McCann has to be in that deal. No? I mean, you can't have Contreras and also have McCann, who you gave a contract to, and be your backup. Like, that wouldn't make sense. So it would have to be McCann, Dominic Smith, and probably maybe a 10 to 15 type of prospect, most likely. You know, you got Dominic Smith that has a couple more years at a cheap rate. You're gonna give him a prospect. James McCann is not costing a lot of money. He basically is a wash. But I think Contreras is making around $7 million, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't say Nito was a better catcher than James McCann. McCann has a better arm, but defensive wise, framing and blocking pitches, it's basically a wash. And hitting wise, I like Nito more than McCann. McCann can provide more power, but he's a guy who strikes out a lot. So I like Nito, who puts better at bats together. JD, I hope we can sweep the Padres for the Mets' sake, not for the Dodgers' sake. No 6-man rotation. Keep it at 5. Well, I think it's not. They don't. Buck doesn't want Connor playing against right-handers because he's been good either way. I just think he wants to see Buck's the guy who likes to keep everybody on the bench, ready, and doesn't make them sit for a couple of games and make them get cold. Like Luis Guillorme, he's been scorching hot. You don't want to keep him on the bench for 3 or 4 games. The same thing with Nick Plummer. You know, you kept him up other than Dominic Smith because he's performed. Put him at DH. Darvish has a tough – he's very tough on right-handers. Even though J.D. Davis and Connor are hitting well, you put your lefties in because Darvish has a harder time against lefties than he does right-handers. That's the only reason why Connor's not playing tonight. Yeah, and look at the difference. McNeil had a couple of good nights in a row. He had a good night, again, a good afternoon against the Dodgers, had a good game against the Padres yesterday. I said this. People thought Buck didn't get on McNeil because of that. He did. He was mad that the Mets were up 9-4 going into the 9th inning, and McNeil was bitching and moaning about his struggling, and he made it about himself and not the team. And Buck took him out of the game for Canna, and also didn't start him in the finale against the Dodgers. That shows you that Buck has control over his team. And you know what? It put McNeil back in his place and back into a team role, into a team mindset, not an individual mindset. The problem with last year's team, everybody was too much of an individual type of guy. You know, Lindor was worried about his stats. Baez was worrying about his stats because he was a free agent. Stroman was worried about only what he did. You know, when he was great, nothing else mattered. The Mets could have lost 2-1 if he pitched 6 solid innings and gave up 1 run. The Mets lost. He's patted himself on the back, but didn't care about the Mets losing. Everything was individual last year. The reason why Buck Showalter did nip that in the butt with McNeil was because McNeil made that moment about himself, about him struggling, and Buck Showalter didn't like that. But like, hey, this is a team game. Yes, it involves individual stats, but you don't win because of one individual. You win because of a team. And McNeil not only had the possibility of pissing off the Dodgers because, you know, showing emotion like that can piss off the other team as well. And with a 5-run lead in that Saturday game, you don't want to give any momentum to the Dodgers after you just lost the first 2 games. He nipped it in the butt and says, listen, I'm taking you out. Control yourself. Take a breather. And you're not also playing tomorrow. He put McNeil back in his place and put him into that team mentality again. And that's what I love about Buck. And that's why Buck has full control over this team. Yeah, JC, people are like, oh, the Met fans are too cocky. We are not one thing Met fans are not. We're not a cocky bunch. We are sometimes overly optimistic, but 9 out of 10 times we're a very pessimistic fan base. We try to not get too high because we know that the floor the carpet might rip out from under us sooner or later. We're always on edge. And, we might talk trash sometimes, but that's all fan bases. But Met fans are always waiting for the shoe to fall off the other foot. Always. But it's a lot of fun. And we haven't had a team like this to be as much fun early in the season since probably the 2016. And 2015, the first half of the Mets were terrible until the trade deadline. It wasn't good at all. So it's a lot of fun, and I love it. Jimmy, I thought so during the Dodgers series because he was struggling so much. But the last few games, the fourth game of this Dodgers series and yesterday, Nimmo started to feel it again. He had a lot of good at-bats yesterday. And I think he's coming back. So, no, I think Nimmo will be fine. Billy, what's up, buddy? Oh, no, I don't know if you're in a room unless you say something in the chat. But listen, there's been a lot of people in the stream that's been just watching or listening and not getting involved in the chat, which is fine. I don't need you guys to, be in the chat all the time. But I appreciate you guys hanging in there. And I know, Billy, you watch it on your TV, so I'm kind of on a big screen. Woohoo! But but yeah, that's pretty cool, Billy. But I appreciate you just keeping on tuning in. And when you can chime in, you're always welcome to. But thank you for tuning in, Billy. Yeah, Blind Beer, we're not going to worry about. We're not trading Pete anywhere. Don't worry about that, buddy. So once again, guys, we got about 20 minutes until I'm ending the stream. So get all your concerns, opinions, and questions now. We got 114 in the stream. Again, I'm not expecting a huge crowd, but over 100 is always nice for a Mets Talk Live. I always appreciate it. I do appreciate you guys hanging in. It's going to be another late night for all of us. Unfortunately, because of work, I can't do these late games. I'd love to, but unfortunately, I can't because of work. As most of you guys know, with the overnight shift, it's kind of impossible. So, okay, 36 inch is better than a 13-inch laptop or a 7-inch phone, right? Okay, Billy, that's awesome. So, Jimmy, let me see. I'm sorry. It says, another talking point, do you know why Diaz was using the 8th in the last game against the Dodgers? Yeah, because Buck Showalter said it. He thought the best chance the Dodgers had to coming back in that ball game down 2 runs was the 8th inning with Mookie, Freeman, and Turner leading off that inning. He thought the best opportunity for the Dodgers to come back was the 8th inning. So why not put your best pitcher, who is Diaz at this point, in that spot? Diaz did his job. If Lugo would have done his job, Buck Showalter looked like a genius. I thought it was a good move no matter what. Even if the Mets lost that ball game, you had to put Diaz in that spot because what if Seth Lugo came into the 8th inning, gave up the lead, the Dodgers tied the game, and they still had the 9th inning to win the ball game? We might have lost that game. But because you shut them down in the 8th, the Dodgers can only tie the game in the 9th. They could have actually been going into the 9th inning, have an opportunity just to score 1 run. And that's the difference. They scored 2. So I don't think I think it was a good call. I think it made sense. Just because Seth Lugo didn't do the job didn't mean it wasn't the right call from Buck Showalter. I thought it was the right call. Yeah, I don't think you have to give that much to Timothy at all. You got to remember, Contreras is a rental. He's a free agent. Anthony, thank you for the compliment, buddy. So, for all you Ranger fans in the house tonight in the stream on Talking Mets at Rob, if the Mets, excuse me, if the Rangers make the Stanley Cup, would you want me to do exclusive live streams during Ranger Stanley Cup games if the Rangers make the Stanley Cup? Do you want me to do Stanley Cup games, go live, and it'll be like an exclusive live stream, even though it's a Mets channel? I know I got a lot of Ranger fans that subscribe to my channel that I've noticed since the Rangers made the playoffs. We got a lot of Ranger fans. I don't know how big it will be, but the good thing is all the subscribers on my Mets channel will get notified when I go live during the Rangers Stanley Cup if they make it. I think that would be cool. Not only would it help the channel, but let's be honest, there's a lot of hockey fans that are baseball fans and a lot of baseball fans that are hockey fans. So, it will help the channel based on views, and it would also help the channel probably getting some more subscribers who might not be necessarily big on being a big Mets fan or a big person following Mets baseball on YouTube, but they might follow hockey on YouTube and maybe get subscribers that way and viewers that way. So if you guys want me to do it, I probably will do it in game 1. It will be in Colorado. So yeah, Patrick, why not, right? Make it a pay-per-view special. It would be like an exclusive. Like, yes, this is a Mets channel, but you also got to, if you're a fan of another sport and your favorite team is in the championship round, or in this case, the Stanley Cup playoffs or the Stanley Cup finals, why the hell not, All right, so I see Patrick says yes. No, man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a poll up tonight. Leave it up there. And make a poll. Would you want me to go live if the Rangers make the Stanley Cup finals, would you want me to go live during Ranger playoff games? See how that works out. If it's anywhere over 50, if there's more votes yes than no, I'll do it. If there's more no than yes, I won't do it. Yeah, Billy, badminton. Why the hell no? We'll probably do what's that other sport? Rugby. Hebrew. You cannot blame McNeil for being. He has shifted around the batting order every single. Yeah, but he's playing well this year. Look, he got into a little slump and he started to get angry, and that was signs of last year. But he's not batting him 8th every day. Let's be honest. It's hard to put McNeil at the top of this lineup when you got Nimmo, Marte, and Lindor 1, 2, 3. McNeil doesn't fit in that situation. McNeil's best spots in the batting order is leadoff or batting second. You're not moving Nimmo and you're not moving Marte because of his speed. So where are you going to put McNeil? Sometimes you put him behind Alonso at 5. Other than that, you're going to bat him 6th, 7th, or 8th. That's just where he fits into the lineup. Why is he mad? The team's doing well, and he's having one of his better years since 2019. So the problem is he got too much into his own head and made it about himself and his struggles than the team winning 9-4. The team's winning 9-4. Yes, you could think about, damn, I didn't do well in this series. I'm struggling a little bit. But go back to the dugout as a professional. Your team's winning 9-4. You need that bowl game. That team needs you on the field. Get it going. There's no coincidence why Bucks took him out, because McNeil made it about himself and not the team, and I appreciate that. There you go, Ruben. Anthony wants me to do the Rangers. Well, just remember, guys, check out on the community page, or I'll do a poll late after the stream tonight. You want me to do Rangers Stanley Cup playoffs live streams, yes or no, and see what happens. Yep, that sweep. Oh, that is curling. Hey, let's do. I love some curling. I can't get enough of that during the U.S. trials and the Olympics. Oh, hell yeah. Curling's my sport. They go hard. Love it. All right, Blind Beard. You say yes as well. No, Hebrew, I agree. he should be up in the order. But you're not moving Marte or Nimmo out of the 1-2 spot where McNeil should be. It's just not happening. It's just, you can't. It doesn't make sense. Marte is perfect in the number 2 hole because not only does he's a threat on the base path, he's a guy that can hit for power as well. And that's a perfect number 2 guy who is a table setter. McNeil is a table setter, but at the end of the day, you need that speed at the top of your lineup because he causes havoc at the top of your lineup. And Nimmo is just a perfect leadoff guy. I like McNeil as well, but again, you're not gonna move McNeil, Nimmo, and Marte. Yeah, he would have 50 RBIs by now, but what are you going to do? I mean, he's played well this year. He's a guy that, you know what? It is what it is. You know what? Why isn't Mark Canna more at the top of the lineup? He's more of an on-base percentage guy than McNeil. He should be batting second then. You could say the same thing for Canna, who should have 40 to 50 RBIs as well. You could say that about almost everybody in this lineup. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to, Luis Guillorme, you put him at the top of the lineup every day, he might have 50 RBIs. But, if McNeil was in the 2 hole, he wouldn't have 50 RBIs because he's a table setter. He's not a guy, the number 2 guy in the lineup is not an RBI guy. He's a table setter. So he wouldn't have 50 RBIs. Well, he's batting 5th tonight, so he should be happy. Technically, he is the best hitter on the team, but he's a guy that you shouldn't move Marte, who is a guy who is cause havoc on the base paths, and Nimmo, you're not moving from leadoff spot. I like McNeil 5th in the order. Again, I think McNeil is in no man's land 7th, 8th, or 9th. Look, if you can't put him 1 or 2, bat McNeil 9th as like a secondary leadoff hitter. I would like that instead of batting him 6th, 7th, or 8th. I like McNeil batting behind Pete Alonso 5. I like that. But if Escobar starts to hit for power and starts to do what he did last night, Escobar is going behind Pete Alonso. But I do like McNeil in the 5th spot tonight. Yes, Blind Beard, I did say it, but I'll say it again for you. Let's see. So the lineup for the Mets tonight is this. Waiting for it. Okay, here we go. So Brandon Nimmo leading off playing second. Playing center field. Starler Marte batting second, playing right field. Francisco Lindor shortstop batting third. Pete Alonso playing first base, batting cleanup. Jeff McNeil playing left field, batting 5th. Eduardo Escobar batting 6th, playing third base. Luis Guillorme playing second base, batting 7th. Nick Plummer getting the DH spot tonight, batting 8th. And Patrick Muzica batting 9th, catching. So that is your lineup for your Mets tonight against Yu Darvish. Yeah, you talked about Pete Alonso, Blind Beard, with Pete Alonso getting traded to the Dodgers. That's not happening, buddy. Never. Never. All right, guys, so we got about 7 minutes left, so I'm going to wrap it up just now. I do like the lineup tonight. I think it's, if you didn't have, if you even had Kana in this lineup as well, even if you wanted the DH Kana tonight instead of Plummer, the lineup 1 through 8 is like completely tough. There's no break in that lineup. Even Patrick Muzica shows some flair every now and then as well. So 1 through 8, it's a tough lineup. So once again, guys, the game starts at, is it 10 o'clock? I don't know. With these stupid West Coast games, sometimes it's 9:40. So the game starts at 9:40 tonight. So you're going to have a pregame at 9 o'clock tonight on SNY, and the game starts at 9:40 tonight. So tonight, the Mets and Buck Showalter clearly wants a lot of left-handers against Yu Darvish because Yu Darvish in his career has been very tough against right-handers. That's the reason why you have majority of left-handers in this lineup. That's why Plummer's in the lineup. That's why Luis Guillorme is in the lineup. And that's the reason why you got only Alonso and Marte, the 2 right-handers, in the lineup only. So that's what we are going to go against you Darvish, predominantly 7 out of 9 is left-handed batters. So your best chance to win against you Darvish is hit as many left-handers as possible. Let's see. Going back on TV. Have a good. All right, Billy. Have a good day, buddy. And just so everybody knows, the Friday game against the Angels is on Apple TV. So this is what I'm gonna try to do. Obviously, you guys know I work overnight. There's a pretty good chance I could just put the ballpark app, game day up on the screen and go live for people who can't get Apple TV. And the only way to get the game is through my stream or the radio. Because Apple TV is annoying and nobody wants to watch it or listen to it, what I'm going to do, I might just put up the live stream, put up game day, and put up the radio call for the Mets, for either Howie Rose or whoever's doing a radio call that day, Wayne Randazzo or whoever. Put the radio call. I won't be on the stream because I probably be sleeping because I got to go to work, or at least trying to get some sleep before work. So what I would do, it won't be the same way I normally do it. I won't have the little box with my face and the instant reactions in between innings. I will just leave the radio broadcast on with game day and just leave the live stream on. And I'll be, when the game is over, I'll probably be headed to work. And I'll just end the live stream when the game is over. How about that? So that's what I'll do. So the radio call and game day without me there present to go through the innings. So you'll get all the commercials on the radio. You'll get all the, hopefully the microphone doesn't crap out while I'm sleeping, but most of the time you'll get the game on, hopefully the entire game, and you'll have game day up so you can follow the game without wasting your time on Apple TV. So if you want me to guys to do that, I'll do that. I'll probably be on before the game and talk about the game, maybe the first inning or two, but I'll be in bed. But I'll leave the live stream on for you guys. If you want me to do that, I'll do that for Friday so you don't have to deal with the Apple TV. So, yeah, after the Angels, the Mets go back home for the Brewers and the Marlins. So, all right, guys, it's almost 7 o'clock, so get all your likes in if you haven't hit on that like button as of yet. I haven't checked how many likes there are yet because I can't see it while I'm live. I can only see the viewers at the moment. Let's see. Excuse me. Got 68 likes, which is pretty good considering it was around 105 people in the stream. So it's a pretty good number, over 100 on Mets Talk Live a few hours before the game. So I do appreciate all you guys hanging out with me tonight before the 9:40 start time for the Mets versus the Padres. So Friday night, Apple TV, so you guys don't have to deal with that crap and listen to Apple TV, I will have the stream on with game day and the radio call. And you get to listen to either Howie Rose, Wayne Randazzo, whoever's on the radio, and you'll have game day up to follow the game without the terrible Apple TV. So if you want me to do that, I will do that. I'll put that stream up and let everybody know in the community tab that I'm going to be doing that so everybody can check out that. Hopefully it's a good viewership during that time, which it usually is. And you'll probably get the live stream post game because I'll be heading to work almost when the game is over. So I will definitely do that for you guys. So Friday, Apple TV, don't worry about it. I'll have the live stream up, the radio call with game day up without me present because of. But no, Ariel, unfortunately, I can't stream tonight because I got to go to work. Look, listen, if Friday works out and without me being present during the stream, but you'll get the radio call and game day when I can't do live streams at night for most games, I can just do that on a regular basis, and you guys at least get the stream in, the game day, and you can talk amongst yourselves along with the radio call. If you want me to do that, fine, I'll do that. But we'll see how Friday goes. If Friday's turns out good and you get a good viewership, because I'm not going to do it if it's only like 50 people in the stream, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to watch Apple TV. I'd rather sleep than follow the game on that channel, on that streaming service. I can't stand it. I gave it a chance the first time. Gave it a chance only because, what the hell? But they were terrible. I couldn't listen to it. I actually synced up my radio with the screen. Like I said, the video was excellent. The way the camera angles were, it was great. The announcers sucked. The play-by-play was terrible. And I synced up Howie and Wayne to the TV, and it worked out perfectly. So, Friday night, Apple TV, Mets versus Angels. If you don't want to deal with Apple TV, if you don't want to subscribe, if you don't want to deal with that nonsense, I'm going to put the live stream up on my channel with game day up and the radio call without my presence because I'll be sleeping. So I will do that for you guys. So 7 o'clock, guys, the stream is going to end just now. So everybody, thank you guys for tuning in to Mets Talk Live. We had the Game 1 recap, also Mets win for Game 1, the preview for Game 2, and I will see you on Thursday for Mets Talk Live during the Mets off day at around 5 o'clock. So once again, guys, I appreciate everybody hanging in there today and enjoying the Mets Talk Live. Let's get the series win tonight against Darvish. Everybody have a good night, Travis Berg. Let's get that W tonight. Have a good night, guys. As always, let's go Mets.